Welcome to this tactical analysis of the Chelsea versus Tottenham game. In this video, we're going to be looking at the Chelsea press versus Tottenham's deep build-up, as well as also Chelsea beating Tottenham's press. Starting with Chelsea's press, they pressed in a 5-2-3, or later in the game, what looked like a 3-3-1-3. Key aspects of the Chelsea press included tracking Kane and Son when they dropped, and then if they forced passbacks, they would follow the pass back to halt Tottenham's progression and force a hard reset to Lloris. And of course, if they regained possession with this pressure, then they had serious momentum in their favour. At times, the press of Chelsea looked almost like a 4-2-4, with Reece James moving into a CDM kind of position, typically tracking Kane or Son, dropping deeper, allowing Thiago Silva to stay at centre-back. Tottenham tried to use the full width of the pitch, given how congested Chelsea made the centre of the park, with a very wide position of their wide centre-backs and the very high and wide position of their wing-backs. Through balls to those wing-backs had low probability of success, and so it was preferred to A, reduce the length of the pass with shorter passes into Son or Kane, who would then play another through ball, or disrupt Chelsea's press by having Bentancur drop deeper into centre-back to try and disrupt Chelsea's pressing shape and potentially create more space for Son and Kane in that central space. And with that, let's have a look at two examples. Okay, so whilst I say that Chelsea had a 5-2-3, that's only on paper, we see that here, where we have the Chelsea players kind of man-marking in this central space. Havertz here looking to put pressure on Lloris and Dyer, and Raheem Sterling initially staying narrow, but then as the ball's going to be played out towards his left-hand side, he's going to look to peel out there and put pressure on Ben Davies, one of those really widely positioned wide centre-backs. And so we see that here with Dyer's ball out into the wide space. Higher up the pitch, you've got Sessegnon as well as Emerson on this near side, looking to be playing as the wide midfielders for Tottenham in possession here. Chelsea narrowing the pitch with Havertz here as your far-sided wide midfielder coming across, trying to press towards this touchline. And here, Reece James, I just think it's key to note his positioning because he was doing this all game. We'll see in another example as well, him tracking a runner, looking to put pressure on whether it was Son or Kane, looking to drop off and link play. Those balls a bit long and forces Davies into heading it up the pitch towards Sessegnon, who's tracked by the flying Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And from there, it's a Tottenham throw-in, which is yet another situation, especially given it's in Tottenham's half, that Chelsea are looking to put intense pressure. Okay, so another scenario, this time in the 37th minute, again with Chelsea's front five. I guess the one fixture would be Jorginho more towards the base of the press, but here we've got Kante much higher, we've got Raheem Sterling much deeper. Regardless, they're looking to put a lot of pressure on the centre-backs, force balls to be played into those wide spaces and press towards the touchline. And again, we've got Tottenham deep with two of the centre-backs, this time in more traditional positions, with Ben Davies and Dyer relatively narrow, whereas on this near side, Romero's very close to the touchline, and they look here to try and play it out towards Romero. But as mentioned, Chelsea are very intense this game. We see just how quickly Havertz closes down the space for Romero going down the line. Instead, Romero is able to cut inside, although this isn't necessarily a safe space given you've got Chelsea narrowing the pitch when they press. So this is really where they kind of want the ball to go. And so Romero plays this pass through the central space, looking for Harry Kane to drop off and try and link play. You've got Bentancur kind of spinning into that space vacated behind the two Chelsea centre midfielders. And then here, just as in the other scenario where we had Reece James following Son, in this scenario we've got him following Harry Kane and trying to prevent him from being able to spin or just generally get his head up, force him back. Where Chelsea were able to force that pass back, then they would typically follow the ball, and that would allow them to really force Tottenham into a hard reset. In this scenario, James is able to win the ball back and forces Tottenham to set up in a defensive shift. Good to note here the high position of the wing backs. In both scenarios, we never saw Tottenham get to the wing backs, but we see them in those high and wide spaces with your centre forwards, your wide midfielders in more central spaces. And one of the centre midfielders here in Højbjerg being one of the centre midfielders who dropped to become another centre-back. Another key tactical area in this game was Chelsea beating Tottenham's press in Chelsea's defensive third. Assuming Tottenham had played a long ball for Son or Kulusevski early in the game, and then for Son, Kulusevski and Richarlison later in the game to chase, but Chelsea in this situation, let's say, have won the ball back. The Tottenham forwards could look to instigate a press in Chelsea's defensive third with the near side wing-back and centre midfielder looking to support high. Tottenham are looking to force an error out of of Mendy, who in previous seasons has looked shaky. But Chelsea have the option to beat Tottenham's press with 1. Combinations between the defenders and Jorginho, 2. A long ball to Loftus-Cheek, or 3. A pass between the lines into the number 8s in Mount and Loftus-Cheek, or a long ball into Havertz and Raheem Sterling looking in behind. And lastly, on beating Tottenham's press, of course, Chelsea forced Tottenham to retreat and forced Tottenham's covering players to expend quite a lot of energy making sure that the Chelsea counter-attack or dynamic play slow down, allowing Tottenham to reset. And with that, let's have a look at another example. Looking at Tottenham's press, we've got here Tottenham in possession. You've got Ben Davies, the left centre-back, passing back to Dyer. We've got what was essentially a 4-2-4 here, press by Chelsea. So you've got your 2 centre midfielders, although one of them technically is Reece James. And then you've got your front 4 with Havertz, Kante, Raheem Sterling and Mason Mount. And they're looking to try and press towards this touchline. Dyer plays the ball into Bentancur, who's dropped from his higher position, and assuming he got a shout, he's looking to try and avoid the pressure by Mason Mount and play it first time. Unfortunately, 2 of the targets that he would be looking for have dropped deep, so we've got Kane and Son. And so unfortunately, Son ends up having to try and put pressure here on Thiago Silva, which triggers the rest of the team to go with him. Unfortunately here, Son doesn't anticipate where Mendy is going to pass, and so by going towards this right hand side, he actually reduces the pressure. If he'd put his run towards the left hand side, he'd have been able to come towards where Loftus-Cheek is in this corner. That would have harried this whole build up by Chelsea. Now also your wing back near side, pushing high up, trying to track the wing back of Chelsea. Unfortunately, because of Son, as I mentioned in the earlier scenario, going right rather than left, Harry Kane is forced to try and pressure into this space rather than just picking up Thiago Silva. He ends up also trying to put pressure on and being beaten by the combination between Thiago Silva and Loftus-Cheek in this space. And with him being beaten, then also Sessegnon gets beaten, freeing up Reece James in this right hand side and allowing Chelsea to escape and force a reset by Tottenham. And with that, we've covered the key tactics. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing. With that, we're out.